Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the video series on the 5 functions of developing a theory of change. This series is produced by the Capacity Building Center for States and funded by the Children's Bureau. In this module, we're going to break down the second task in developing a theory of change. Identify a long-term outcome. Remember, at this point a team has already revisited the work done in problem exploration and gathered information on the problem statement, root causes, and target population. In this video, we will talk about identifying the long-term outcome before a team moves on to develop the pathway of change, define actions, or document rationale. Let's get started. After gathering information about the problem statement, root causes, and target population, teams identify a long-term outcome to describe the goal of the change efforts. Remember, the theory of change is a pathway. Think of the problem statement as the starting point and the long-term outcome as a destination. The long-term outcome answers questions like, what about the problem will change? What will the impact to the target population look like? How will the team know that their change initiative was successful? Without identifying a long-term outcome, it will be difficult for the team to think about the action steps they can take to realize change, address the problem, and improve outcomes for the target population. Outcomes represent a noticeable change. Teams brainstorming long-term outcomes can think about the changing conditions in 3 different ways. How will the team recognize the change in people? Will they observe a specific behavior change, an increase in knowledge, or a demonstration of new or enhanced skills? How will the team recognize the change in organizations? Will they see policy changes or culture shifts? How will the team recognize the change in systems? Will they spot enhanced collaboration or improved service accessibility? Asking these questions can help teams brainstorm big-picture ideas for change. After thinking about big-picture changes for people, organizations, and systems, teams can refine goals by ensuring the long-term outcome is specific, achievable, and understandable. Depending on the nature of the problem being addressed, teams can often spend multiple years on a change initiative. Identifying a long-term outcome that is specific, achievable, and understandable helps teams establish a goal that is focused, feasible, and clear to those who will do the work over time and improve the chance that the team can meet their goal. To ensure the long-term outcome is specific, achievable, and understandable, consider the following questions. Is the outcome detailed, measurable, and time-bound? Are the resources needed to reach this outcome currently available or easily attainable? Is the outcome clear to internal and external stakeholders? Let's check back in with our example. After establishing a starting point for the theory of change with the problem statement of a high proportion of rural child protection investigations remain open longer than they should, and the target population of child protection investigators in rural counties, the team takes time to determine their long-term outcome. What will change for the target population? How will people, organizations, and systems be different? Remembering that it is important for outcomes to be specific, achievable, and understandable, the team lands on the long-term outcome that 90% of investigations are closed within their required 45-day time frame. Now that the team has documented where they are by gathering the problem statement and where they want to go by identifying a long-term outcome, what might be their next step? The next step is to develop the pathway or pathways of change using causal links. Let's take a moment to check in on what you've learned about identifying a long-term outcome. Why do teams identify a long-term outcome? To define the endpoint for the theory of change and describe how the team will know that the change initiative was successful. How do teams identify a long-term outcome? By describing how the condition of people, organizations, and systems will change. What can help teams identify a long-term outcome? Ensuring that the long-term outcome is specific, achievable, and understandable. As a reminder, revisit the reflection questions in your Develop a Theory of Change workbook on Identify a Long-Term Outcome to connect what you've learned to your own experience. Up next is the develop the pathway to change, the third function in developing a theory of change.